Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. My name's Simon Davis. I work at a seaweed biotechnology company called Seedling, and we're based in Malaysia. Uh, I today would like to share with you uh, a vision about what the industry, the tropical seaweed industry, will look like in the next 3 to 5 years in the near term. What are the opportunities and what are the obstacles that are going to allow the growth of this vital industry? I think everyone who's attending this conference shares a passion and a belief for seaweed cultivation and the benefit it can bring, whether it's a benefit to our planet or a benefit to our people. Um, it's undeniable that the more seaweed cultivation there can be, the more benefit that can create. Okay, that's fantastic, but how do we do that? Uh, the future is really, really exciting. There's been a lot of buzz in the last couple of years about, opening up open ocean seaweed cultivation, and it's fantastic. This is amazing. Whether it's about biomass creation or whether it's about carbon capture, the technologies that are being discussed for this are, astounding. Using drones for sensors, using drone submarines for harvesting and planting, automated vehicles, planting structures that can float deep at sea, pumping seawater up. This is a really, really exciting area, and no doubt that a lot of change will happen, but it's going to take time. And I think we need to be realistic about that, particularly when this is the reality now. If you go to any tropical country that's farming seaweed, this is the reality that we face, which is a very basic industry, heavily reliant on manual labor, next to no knowledge about the plant varieties and how they perform. And it's making just a handful of products. And there's been very little innovation in this space for decades. And these are the key obstacles that we see to limiting, how the seaweed industry in the tropical region can really expand. The number one obstacle is about market demand. Hydrocolloids is a fantastic industry, but the growth is particularly slow, and it's dominated by a handful of major players, which can then lead to price manipulation. So there needs to be new opportunities to push seaweed into new markets, into new uses and new products. And that's when we'll really get fast and rapid growth in demand. So new opportunities need to be found. Importantly, there is a very limited knowledge about the planting material. The species we've been farming for decades, we still really haven't mastered, how they reproduce, how they're selected for performance. This is a real key area that's lacking in detail. And then, of course, there's a distinct lack of technology. Everything is manual labor, and that's fantastic. But if we're really going to scale up seaweed production, we need to move forward with technology. There are, of course, the key risks of disease risk, which is becoming more and more common in recent years, and then climate risk, which will happen in the future. It's not about if, it's about when, and that climate impacts will affect the tropical seaweed industry, and we need to work in advance ahead of that. And then lastly, there's only been a handful of species that are currently being farmed, and they've been done successfully, but there's a huge opportunity to find new species, and that's an obstacle that needs to be overcome. We call this Seaweed 2.0. What are the steps that can be achieved in the next 3 to 5 years that are really going to set up the tropical seaweed industry for massive expansion? These are stretch goals, they're not going to be easily achieved. But by achieving these key steps, we can create tremendous progress, and then that progress will just will continue as momentum grows. And so we can really shift the needle in what's happening in this industry. It comes down to the keys of supply and demand. For us to move this industry forward, we need to reduce the cost of our raw material. We need to increase its quality, identify new species for opportunities, producing new products, finally nailing a biorefinery, improving the traceability, and then identifying additional revenue streams. And this is what it's going to take, and this is easily achievable in the next 3 to 5 years. The first and the most important is reducing the raw material costs of the harvested seaweed. The more we can reduce raw material costs, then the more products seaweed can enter, the more markets it can enter, the more industries it can enter, the more uses for the seaweed produced. The key point, though, is that the farmers are already living on the edge of the poverty line. They cannot be screwed down for lower prices. So how can we use technology to improve productivity whilst at the same time improving the livelihood of the farmers? A key area for this will be looking at the varieties that are being farmed. What are superior varieties that have got higher growth rates, that are resistant to temperature changes and resistance to disease as well? How can we identify these varieties so that we can improve the productivity of existing farmers? To put it simply, how do you imagine the change we can create when you put a better quality seed into the hands of the thousands of farmers that are already out there farming? Then, of course, once we've got the varieties, we need the way to multiply them, and that's a hatchery. So developing hatchery technology, the ability to multiply varieties into seed material. This has got opportunities, whether it's about working with varieties that perform better at different times of the year, say a wet season and a dry season variety, and then pivoting between them using a hatchery, or whether it's about restocking a farm after a knockout event, whether it's a disease or a storm clearing out a farm, and then restocking with a hatchery. And then also tremendous cost reduction can be achieved through mechanization, whether that's technology for harvesting, for seeding, for processing, and then also looking at the substrates. Tai method is working well, but it's been doing the same for decades. What are the opportunities we can find for improving the way, the substrate that we're holding the cultivated seaweed to improve productivity? Next is the opportunity to commercialize new species. Ulva and Caulerpa, in the last couple of years, there's more and more interest in these for developing new products. And as that demand increases, I think these two species will be farmed more and more. Asparagopsis has, of course, leapt onto the scene in the last couple of years, and this is a really, really hot topic. I think there needs to be more development on it. It's it's not something that's ready just yet, but this is a huge, exciting opportunity to really massively add another species to the already farmed species in this region. When you look at if we're farming just with Capophycus and Eucuma and Gracilaria, okay, that's great. But the more species we can add to what is farmed now creates a sophisticated industry. It de-risks farming for farmers and also from a market opportunity. The big question, of course, is, okay, what's the next species? A decade ago, no one was thinking about Asparagopsis as a methane reduction technology. So what's the next one out there? And there's literally thousands of species to choose from. And it's about going out there and looking for opportunities for new species to make new products and then finding out ways of commercializing it. We already have hundreds of thousands of farmers out there already. They know how to farm. They've already got rights to their water. It's like, how can we put a new variety in their hands, a new species in their hands? And that will really kickstart the momentum of this industry. Fundamental will be also improving the quality of what's being farmed. if we're just looking for biomass, then that's just one metric. But if we're producing in a sophisticated industry and we're looking for certain components, certain compounds, then yield is incredibly important. That's the fundamental. What this will come down to is looking at different plant varieties and how they interact with their environment, the genetics interacting with the environment. And this needs quite a lot of focus, but it's got huge potential for reward. Another area will be how the product is handled. When we're identifying, we're seeking particular compounds in a harvest, then how this harvest is handled is critical if these compounds are sensitive to degradation by light or temperature. So developing proper techniques for harvest handling will bring tremendous benefit and reward. There are a number of product opportunities besides hydrocolloids, and this area is really gathering steam. Whether it's animal feed, bioplastics, biofuel, medicines, cosmetics, fertilizers, there's a real buzz in this space at the moment, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I look forward to the day where there's other uses for tropical seaweeds that are equally substantial, if not more than hydrocolloids. And this is really what it comes down to, creating a sophisticated industry, just like land-based agriculture, where you're farming multiple varieties or to create multiple products. And that's the vision for the seaweed industry, opening up these vast spaces in the ocean to mimic and create an industry similar to what we have on land. There is also chances to value add to the harvests that are already being farmed. It's been shown that consumers are strongly pushing, they're demanding from product manufacturers traceability about where all the ingredients come from that they're consuming. And this is a strong movement, and it's going to get more and more in the coming years. Whether it's about technologies such as app platforms or blockchain, there's already stuff out there that can be used in our industry. There's a couple of players working on this at the moment, Cultiva and Sea Green, and I'm really excited to see them become more and more prevalent. We can learn lessons from other industries, from the coffee industry and the cocoa industry, for example, and use traceability to attract a premium pricing. We can also do the same thing with sustainability. We know that seaweed, brings social and environmental benefit. If this can be tracked and recorded, then it's also possible to demand premium pricing for products, whether that's simple impact metrics or certification under the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. There's opportunities to document sustainability. The Safe Seaweed Coalition, set up by the UN Global Compact and Lloyd's Registry, is also moving forward in this area, and that's really interesting to see, where that will go in the next couple of years. Biorefineries have got tremendous potential to really to develop new products and work on the bottom line of the seaweed industry. We've been talking about this for years. It's just not economical at the moment, unfortunately. But as soon as one or two major players manage to crack this nut and roll it out, it will snowball throughout the whole industry. And that's going to be a really exciting space to look at in the future. And yeah, I'll be following it closely. Lastly, seaweed provides a number of what's called ecosystem services. And key among those is capturing carbon and capturing nitrate. And now we know this happens, it just hasn't been quantified exactly how much. And there's opportunities now to monetize carbon capture. Blue carbon is a huge space. There's a lot going on now. It's still early days, but people are looking for seaweed as a way of carbon capture. And this is a really exciting area at the moment to take already established farming regions and just adding another revenue stream through carbon capture. Alexandre Cousteau's Oceans 2050 is moving in this direction, and it's fantastic. they, something should come online with that in the next couple of years. And then there's also opportunities with nitrate. I think it's going to take a bit longer. There's already a nitrate trading scheme in Australia related to the Great Barrier Reef. And the same thing could happen, particularly in Southeast Asia with its tremendous coral biodiversity being affected by the increasing eutrophication due to runoff from farming. There is opportunity there, but I think it's going to take a bit longer in this region. The key steps to achieve benefit, to achieve an expanded industry in the next 3 to 5 years: reducing the costs, improving the quality, identifying new species, developing new products, improving the biorefinery method and making it economical, using traceability, and using additional revenue streams from the ecosystem services. These steps are all achievable in the next 3 to 5 years and will, translate into a massive expansion and sophistication of the industry as we see it, and the benefit that will create both in creating jobs, producing new biomass, helping and cleaning our ocean, and creating habitat. This is an achievable step. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's an achievable step, and I look forward to working with everyone else in doing this in the coming years. I'd just like to finish with a shout out that Seedling is hiring at the moment. We're seeking talented, committed people to create the shift that needs to happen in the seaweed industry. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're really we're keen to working with the best people out there. And also for partners, we're really open to partnerships and collaborations. Please feel free to drop us a line anytime. Thank you so much to the organizers for organizing this conference, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.